So it's not something I'm currently invested in, but it sounds like something I could put my bardic inspiration behind.
Yeah, I mean, that's pretty good. That was a pretty good tag. I like that tag.
I never know what the next words are coming out of my mouth are going to
Same.
be. I just keep talking and hope something lands.
Same, dude.
Like a true bard.
Yeah, or like a true DM.
Yeah.
Just start going. Let's see where
Just
it
start
lands.
going. Something will happen. Welcome to Take the Damage podcast by Unfortunate Ones. I'm Sav,
I'm Nix.
I'm Graythorn.
and we're just moving past the idea of anybody else doing it.
You know, whatever comes to it, when it does happen.
So, today's topic, 13
13 is villains.
villains. I want to be able to bounce ideas off of you guys because I actually need to write villains. I generally don't write epics. I write I don't want to say mundane. That sounds like putting down on it, but
Sure.
I usually write like lower stakes. I like human characters and grounded things, and I like it to be more like drama or politically driven.
Sure.
And though like we've talked about, I don't like dungeon puzzles, like physical puzzles. I like the puzzles of like figuring out the politics of a place to solve a problem. But I have a campaign starting up soon that I'm doing the villain thing. Yeah, I don't have much experience with villain. We could talk about that later, but just as an introduction of that, I don't have much experience. This will be like my first big jump into doing like the villain of a story.
I have like faux villains that I can go off of if
Sure.
mostly based off of the majority of a lot of my villains as it relates to you two is Lord's Fall. Lord's Fall had like accidental villains where you guys made villains of your own. Where
We met people, they did nothing wrong to us, and we were like, how dare you?
Yeah.
You're the villain of the story now.
in the subtext of the game and how I built the game, because a lot of the stuff that you guys did was like thievery or like
Sure.
taking of things, I had essentially built levels of criminal organizations,
Sure.
and
I do that too.
I based them based off of your guys' character levels. Notably, one of the big villains, the villain organization, was, I called them the Shattered, or I think it was the Shattered.
Yeah, it was.
They were your level 20 evil organizations. When you guys got to these really high end levels, that's who these guys were.
It also definitely felt like they were supposed to be important, and we just didn't go down that route.
Yeah, you guys didn't. So some of your characters, part of the like random rolled backstories, I kind of rolled back into the main story. I believe your mom, Sav's mom, was playing with us at the time too, like very infrequently, but she was.
Mm-hmm.
She was like a pit fighter. In the city where you guys got Gimli, the three-tiered city that was in this world, there was a fighting pit in there that she was going to be familiar with, that was run by one of the higher-up members of the Shattered. So like that was going to be one of your guys' introductory routes into this organization and who they were. It never really got that far. And like the one of the other like faux villains of the campaign was the mage.
Not like faux, but like, yeah, like smaller villains.
Smaller villains. In the world, he was kind of a villain because he would take on both righteous and villainous tasks. That was
Sure.
That was supposed to be the original the original gang that you guys were supposed to set out with.
Yeah.
The original
Guild.
club,
The Adventure Guild.
the adventure guild that you guys were supposed to be a part of, which is they were kind of not neutral because they did both. They were chaotic.
Sure.
Where it was, they would take on bad and take on good. And the leader of it was a mage, a very powerful mage who was your level 16 through 17 ish kind of group. If you guys were going to get to that point of fighting him, he was quelled by the Shattered. He was getting big enough at in the point of his history where the Shattered came in and were like, hey, we recognize you. We recognize that you're strong. We recognize that you could become this thing. Comply or we're going to fuck your shit up. And I believe in the backstory that I wrote for him is he didn't comply and he got his shit fucked in. And then he was like, okay, I am complying. I don't want more of my people dying. So now I'm complying. So he was under the toe of the Shattered.
Yeah.
And then even beyond that, in terms of like, he became your own personal villain, that mage, because he kind of like flexed his power against you in a moment.
I was pretty upset.
Yeah. Also, like he was a villain of the group because I canonized a one shot of a battle royale where the mage actually did pluck you into this some sort of way into this battle royale, and you guys actually fought, and one of the characters of the group actually did win a prize, which made it, oh, this was real.
Yeah.
Because one of the characters won the thing. And you're like, oh, fuck that guy. Yeah, he was a dickhead. He felt very powerful and he did things he wanted to do.
Yeah.
The actual probably big villain of that world was who the Shattered worked for. The Shattered worked for, I had gotten this concept from like conspiracy theories of the Black Pope, which is this idea that there is like a more like evil version of the Pope that is like secretly part of the Catholic Church, where there's the white Pope, the one that we know of, the face one. And there's the underground organization one. There's the Black Pope. So I had this idea where the kingdom that you guys were a part of, the ruling body, the ruling person is the at the time was the Empress. She ruled the kingdom, and related to her was, I forgot what the name of it, but there was the Black Pope. It was the guy who ran crime in the kingdom. The way I positioned it, or in my head of making it make sense, is crime is going to exist in the kingdom. Might as well know when it's happening, why it's happening, and if something is happening against the what they want to happen in the kingdom, they have criminal organization to stop it. So that's what the Shattered was. The Shattered worked for the kingdom secretly. So like that's why the Shattered went to the mage to quell him, because he was doing things that the kingdom didn't like.
Yeah. And
in order to make sure that they were complying, the Shattered were sent to stop it. You guys only had one potential interaction with this villain, quote unquote, villain of the kingdom. Because of what you did in capturing that lord, Rainier? Was it Gimli?
Rainier is the one that we captured.
Yeah, because of capturing Rainier. Rainier was an asset of that the kingdom did want.
Yeah.
You guys capturing meant that they got a hold of him. So as a thank you, this mysterious Black Pope leader, he granted your brother, he granted Lucky his own piece of land with a tavern that was already being constructed or whatever. Or no, it was an expansion because Lucky had already purchased a tavern.
Right.
They had granted an expansion of that land, and we're sending people to, we're going to send people to expand it, to like add more to it. And it was like this secret thank you of like, you were just going to get a letter that said, thank you for the capture of this person. Inside it disclosed the details of how you get the people that we've hired to expand your thing. And this is now what your property is, blah, 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 with no like signee. Right. And you would, as soon as you verified this, people would all of a sudden start working on the house.
That's cool.
They're like, what the fuck is happening? It's like, again, it was part of leading into that.
Right.
That was like in my mind, that was the villains of the world.
But not necessarily the villain of the party.
Not the party.
I think in that sense, a lot of my games work more like that. Where like there are big players in the world, but they're not necessarily against the party. They can be if the party decides to go in that direction.
That was sort of where those villains would cross you guys if you guys decided to cross them.
Yeah.
I did have a villain that you guys did cross and would eventually become a thing that you guys would have to deal with, which was the Sludge Knight that I made. And he was part of a whole ring and a whole history that I made of like the original Fey Lord of the mortal world. And this knight was part of his round table. Again, I just rip off. I just like...
Everybody does.
Yeah, like, oh, this is an interesting idea. What's my take on it? Like King Arthur and the round table. All right, well, King Arthur is now this Fey Lord that is the one who is sent from the Fey to the mortal realm in order to rule it and control it to make sure, you know, to be the king of that mortal world. Kind of a little bit like Lord of the Rings-ish too, where there was like those two original, like I think it was two rulers of the mortal realm or something like that. I think I remember something about the Silmarillion, reading something about that.
I've never read the Silmarillion.
But a little bit of that concept, and like, of course, that Fey King becomes corrupted, and it's this whole thing, and the people fight against him and whatever, overthrow him. And then these knights still exist. You guys happen to kill his girlfriend, which was this crazy hag in the forest. He gets mad. He attacks you guys. That sets off a chain of like, that was going to initiate the apocalypse in this world. And eventually that would become your problem.
Yeah.
Eventually. You guys didn't care at all about it. But, you know, it was still a villain that was antagonizing your group.
Yeah, we could have just left.
I mean, you guys killed him, or you guys fought him again and dispatched him. Like, he showed up to you guys.
Yeah.
Like, that was part of his thing. Is like, oh, I know where you guys are now. I'm going to go find you. You guys killed him, and then his sword was what was left behind. His sword was the source of his regeneration. And I think you guys just sold it. I think it, like, ooh, this is a fancy sword.
I don't remember what we did with it.
I think our friend stole it and sold it.
Yes. Somebody got the sword and sold it.
I think I know what you're talking about. And yes, I think he did steal it. And also, he only was there for like 3 sessions.
Yeah.
just absolutely, not that we knew anything was happening anyways, but just ran away with that concept of a storyline.
Yeah. I mean, the way I built the sword is if you decided to attune to it, it would make you stronger, but it was a cursed weapon.
Yeah.
So it would, I forgot what I said it would do, or like I have it like on fucking D&D Beyond of like the full like sheet.
What it does.
But again, it was the place in which you would regenerate is the sword.
Yeah.
As soon as you guys sold it, it went on its own adventure. He regenerated, and realizing that he couldn't defeat you alone, he started to go collect the other swords because they're essentially like relics of the world.
Right.
So he went through the world and killed, or
your world was so much cooler than we allowed it to be.
He went to go and kill or steal or whatever, acquire the different swords of his, knights.
Yeah.
Collect them to the place that they needed to go in order to be revived, which is to the remnants of the Fey King, because he knew where they were because he was one of his knights. And once the entire round table gets resurrected, or most of them, the Fey King can get resurrected. That happened while you guys were playing. The Fey King did get resurrected on an island, a very specific island. And if you guys, I'd sprinkled it in very lightly into like news and to different sources in the game when you guys were playing, that the surrounding kingdoms, so not the one you were in, but the surrounding kingdoms around that island, were sending investigation parties to this island, and the investigation parties were never coming back. So something was happening on this island. People were trying to figure it out.
You did hint at there was something about a dragon, and we wanted to go fight it.
Maybe I put something like that.
I think that was the call. Yeah, there was a town crier talking about, I think it was a black dragon.
Yeah.
And I think we wanted to go do that, and I forget why we didn't.
Yeah. It was I was sprinkling some of that stuff in there.
Yeah.
But yeah, essentially that was like, so there's like the kingdom villains that I had, which is the underground society or whatever. Then I had a world villain.
Yeah.
And it just so happened that you as the party did piss off a member of this world villain, and it would eventually become your guys' problem. We just never got there.
We would have had an army of Gesht soldiers by that point.
Yeah.
We'd have been fine.
Yeah. We would have had an entire army, but somebody decided to say, you know what? No Gesh army. Here's your guy. Do whatever you want with him.
I still wanted to do the Gesh Army thing. I just wanted to take out. Order of operations for me was take out that mage
Yeah.
that you were talking about by drowning his entire city.
Yeah.
Even if he got out, it's fine because we destroyed everything. We would have destroyed everything
Oh,
under him.
don't get me wrong. As much as I was like making sure and getting the finer details and not letting you guys just have the things you wanted when you guys were going to fight this mage, I really wanted you guys to fight this mage because he was one of my favorite classes of a character, and I wanted to behind the wheel. He was a portent wizard. He was a level 17 portent wizard. I've never been able to play with in a real serious situation a level 17 portent wizard, and I was fucking like, ooh, I can't wait to do this. This is cool. I think I had like 5 dice.
We had no intentions of fighting him, though.
Yeah.
We were going to open that portal. In fact, we did. I think we pinned it at opening the portal. No. We were going to open the portal.
I'd given you the details of if you
how
did do it,
yeah.
what was going to happen.
Yeah. And like maybe he would have gotten away, but he wouldn't have had a guild anymore or a city. Also, just kind of like the same way where when we were trying to go after that guild in the 3-layer thing, the way we went about it was by going after their rivals who we knew to be more powerful, and then just, even though we knew it was bullshit and we know that they would see through the bullshit, we were connecting that other guild's name to it. Because in my mind, there is a degree where it's like, hey, we know that you don't necessarily have anything directly to do with this, but you've upset someone and they're fucking with our business now.
Yeah.
You need to fix this before we fix you.
Yeah.
That was kind of our goals when we were going to do our series of attacks. And I imagine if we, to get back at the mage at a place where the mage was known to be, under apparently the Shattered, like it would have put eyes on us in a very bad way as well.
Oh, yeah.
But it also would have put eyes very badly on that mage if that mage's like neighborhood got flooded and all of those thousands of people died.
Oh, yeah.
Like the queen or the empress would have been also upset at him in my mind. It doesn't have to be. I don't know how your logic works, but in my mind that was kind of part of my goals, because what we were going to do is we had because we played with these types of mechanics a lot, we had our surprise round reactions lined up where one of us was going to open up a portal and initiate the flooding, and then the other people present were going to just teleport all of us out of there completely. So like it was literally going to be in the surprise round, the city would be flooded and we wouldn't be there anymore.
Yeah.
So like it would have been very big problems for the mage. Maybe it would have gotten back to us as well, but in the moment it wouldn't have.
I think in my mind, what the possibilities of what potentially could have happened, I believe what I explained to you was this mage has the access to force wall or wall of force.
Mm-hmm.
So I think what I was going to do is, if the timing was right and that he was in his club when this happened, he would time stop when
it started.
The basement started to flood, and then see what the fuck was happening. Because I think you have like 3 turns or something like that.
Oh, maybe, because I don't think he would have had... Well, it's a reaction. Can you reaction in a surprise round?
Oh, sorry.
I suppose you can. No, because it's technically before initiative, so as long as he doesn't know it's happening. If he knew it was happening, yeah, I think he could mechanically have it. I wouldn't call you out on this if you did it as a DM, but...
With the amount of water pressure that was surmised, essentially it would be like the basement that he was in would be shotgunned with water, and it would be whatever amount of time that is for him to have his turn to do his thing. His first thing would have been time stop.
Yes, of course.
And then doing wall of force, doing the things he would need to stop what was happening, or even just a high level dispel magic on if you couldn't actually get to the location of where the water was coming from. But that would have happened more than likely. His entire club and even probably the building that it was built under would have all been washed over, and there would have been a pool of water that would have kind of flushed out from that location.
I don't know that he could. I would never fight against you, however you would have ruled it. But thinking about it mechanically, I don't know that he could do anything about it because it would have happened in the surprise round. I don't think he would be able to use a reaction. And that would be like in the surprise round. That I would imagine would be completely flooded. Also, I don't think you can dispel magic on teleportation. You could.
I believe on a circle you can.
Yes, where the circle is built, but we weren't building a circle. So we were casting to a known circle, which is an action. It's not a like ritual. Like you don't have to build out the circle.
No, yeah, but if
so, I don't think you can dispel magic on a spell. You can counterspell. He maybe could counterspell me.
In my mind, what you from what I remember you guys are doing, you were opening up the teleportation circle.
Yes.
To the place that you had set, and the reason why we were doing a lot of this math is the circle opening in and of itself was going to be open for like a minute or something like that.
10 foot for a minute. Yes,
for a minute.
But what I'm saying is there's no artifact to dispel magic on. There's no item.
It is a thing where you have in my mind how magic would work. You've set a point in which you're creating a spell. That's you have that thing open, and you're going to the teleportation circle. That opening in and of itself, I don't see why not. You couldn't dispel that opening. It is a source of magic that is happening.
So my argument is that the physical teleportation circle that we were going to have at the bottom of the ocean or whatever, that is an item. So that I think you could dispel magic on. But the version that we were going to use in the bathroom was it would be a spell. So there's no item to dispel magic on.
Dispel magic doesn't necessarily have to be with a I don't think it has to be with an item.
Right. So okay, so let's say you have dispel magic as a reaction, fireball you point to a point in time. Could you dispel it on that point? I don't think so. I don't think you could dispel spells.
I think
you can dispel like enchantments.
You can counterspell the casting of the spell,
for sure. Oh
for
yeah,
sure.
easy.
But I don't know. I would have to look up in that moment.
Although even that I don't think you could do. This is just a funny pedantic argument, but I don't think you could do that either if it's in the surprise round, if he is surprised.
For sure.
I don't think he gets a reaction, so I don't think he could even counterspell. I think we just win.
Well, I'm saying because the opening is open for a certain length of time.
Yeah.
In my mind, that means there's a continuous operation of magic.
Sure.
So, like if I was to write a moment in a story using this concept that the teleportation circle is open for a minute, if you were fighting the villain, which you and a group of people were trying to get away from said villain.
Yeah.
And your mage was able to open up this teleportation circle.
Yes.
And your group was trying to get out of this situation. If the villain you're fighting happens to cut in or to the side of your group trying to escape, and let's say it was dispel magic or something of the equivalent. I don't know.
I think it would have to be counterspell.
Well, counterspell has to happen at casting. So dispel magic would, in my mind, would work for a continuous operation of magic.
I want to look this up because, like, can you dispel a force wall? Because that stays up. Can you dispel? What's the one where you have like the fucking flurry of
a wall of
daggers?
I've seen stuff like wall of fire get dispelled, or unless it's specific.
I think if it has a duration, it's dispellable.
Yes,
that's interesting. I did not know that.
So in my mind, that's how it worked. Because if that villain came up and dispelled the portal, and then it left two of your homies behind, to me, that's a good moment to have in a story if you wanted to have that moment. In a story.
Like I said, I wouldn't argue with you. I do think that
I had to look
at previously, I guess I thought that would be kind of breaking the mechanics of the game, but if it's not, it's not.
I had to look at the timing of time stop too, but I remember also when we did the calculations, or I mapped out the volume of the room that you're in, the volume of this club underneath that, how much water pressure. We went back and forth, me and Gray, with some of his buddies in Discord of like,
If it lasted the
if
full
the size of the
minute
thing
and we were
based off the
able to get the
pressure.
depth that I wanted into the ocean,
yeah,
I think you're looking at, if it lasted the whole minute, I think you're looking at like multiple neighborhoods being flooded out.
It was an explosive geyser. That's
yeah.
what it was gonna be.
I remember it was when I was doing the math on it of like how much time you would have before stuff would happen. I believe I did have rounds of time before even the club was filled. Because again, it's the club wasn't a tiny club; it was a big space.
Oh
Underneath.
yeah, you're talking about like the pressure of the ocean through.
Well, also you weren't your target wasn't the ocean; it was like a big river.
I think our target was the ocean because we knew that we could get a boat. Oh, we had a boat that we could get to. But it doesn't matter.
It's been a
This
length
is
of time since
It's
that
been
moment.
so long.
It was the river if we wanted to retrieve it, and it was the ocean if we didn't care.
Yes,
Oh
yeah, something,
yeah,
yeah, something like that.
and there
I
was
remember
some
the river
amount of
being an option.
money that we were talking about collecting in order for the mage that we were doing business with to give up. He gave us like a, if I get it back, then it's
Oh yeah,
worth,
the one mage.
It
you
was
guys-
like, if we get it back, it's a favor. If you are destroying my teleportation circle, that's a year of my life you have to pay
yeah,
for.
that was also a character.
But also we were post being rich already. So.
Yeah.
Yeah. That was another character where it could have become a villain if you made it, which is an even stronger mage that existed in the world. Or I think like one of you guys had access to like going to the ethereal plane. And like one of you guys saw like his ethereal guardians. Like,
Oh,
that,
yeah.
like, roamed his tower.
I do remember that.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
don't remember who it was, but I do remember that.
Yeah, it was just like a mage in a tower that existed in the world.
That's my favorite, is like writing really, really big, powerful things that are neutral.
Yes. That's what he was.
I love that. I have that in, I might have to pivot, but that's a whole nother story. But I have that with a character that I recently introduced where
Yeah.
like, they're like beyond level 20 wizard. And like his whole thing is like, he's been gifted long life. Just to give Gray a little bit of the backstory, he's been gifted long life, and like he spent the youth of that exploring and, you know, dealing with demigods and blah blah blah, and just overall having fun. Now in his later years, because he's old despite his gift of long life. He just likes being around common folk. In fact, the current common person that he's attached to does secretly have status. He knows about it, and there was going to be an off the cuff line of like, oh yeah, if she ever, it was going to be a hint at who she was. It's like, oh yeah, if she ever lives up to her status, I'll probably just move on,
Yeah.
because he just wants to hang out with commoners. But if they ever get invested in what she's doing and realize what he is, they're gonna be like, oh, why don't you just have him solve the problem? And my answer for that is basically, he's already told her, ultimatum, like, hey, I'm happy to be your friend. I'm happy to be your advisor. I'm happy to hang out with you all the time. I do not want to get involved. And just to force that so that you don't ask me to get involved, if you ask me to get involved, I'm just going to genocide the entire coast. Man, woman, and child, literally everybody. So you can take me as your advisor, or you can sanction the genocide of hundreds and hundreds of thousands of people, the vast majority of them innocent, because I don't want to get involved. But if you force me, I'm going to make you regret it. And he could. He would just go one-man army the entirety of like the more prominent part of the realm, which is the oppressive. It's where the oppressive government comes from. And it's like, yeah, you know, I don't want to get involved. You're out here trying to do all of this shit. I'm just trying to be your friend. And if you try and force me to be involved, fine. I will be fully involved. That's the ultimatum.
That's funny.
And if for whatever reason my players ever wanted to go down that path, I'd do it too. I'd glass the entire coast
Oh yeah.
and just put that on my characters. And you're like, yeah, congratulations. There's no more oppressive government. There's also like an entire kingdom that doesn't exist anymore. So live with that.
Oh, I mean-
Congratulations. Also, he's going to have to boogie out because he is not a god, and I'm sure that would upset gods.
It was one of those things too, where like to if you guys did, as when we went off that tangent for like the flooding thing,
Yeah.
if you guys did do that, we're going back to like my villains of the world.
Mhm.
That action, you guys already had eyes on you from the Black Pope character, where he was looking at you guys in a favorable light. You guys doing that, there would have been enough time would have happened in order to realize the different connections and things that you guys had done, the paper trail that you would have left.
Would very easily
Yeah,
could have
to
been
do
traced,
what- to do the thing, and it was been like, oh, now you're in his ire, and then that campaign would have just become a series of combats of you guys fighting different Shattered members.
Oh, we talked about that
Yeah.
for G&G, which was like me telling you guys, like, hey, everybody in this campaign, everybody in this world, everybody in this literal game system is just a person. So, like, you could, presumably, just bust in and kill everybody.
Yeah.
At any point, you could do that. What this game has, and specifically this world has, is a pretty robust law system. So, like, you could probably do it. You could probably go into these, like, little boom towns and just take over and take things out. And slowly but surely, the world is going to escalate in the way they respond to you to the degree where, like, eventually it's just going to be wave after wave until you're dead. So, like, and that was something that I said before the game started was like, hey, realize that, like, your face being on posters is a genuinely bad thing. And
Yeah.
there's no just, like, not that there's no, but it's very unlikely that you could just buy your way out of it. And depending on the degree of severity that your face ends up on posters, like, yeah, everybody in this world is just a person, but you're just a person too. And if you get bad enough, I will send marshals after you. In fact, in that era, if you get bad enough, I'll just send the army after you. If it really gets that bad, if you are burning Colorado down to the ground, there are forts in Colorado that in this fantasy version are active forts. So, like, yeah, I can. There's no reason for me to unless you guys fuck up, but, like, you guys can fuck up to the degree where, like, I am just going to send literally hundreds of people at you. And you're just a person. At level 20, it's hard for you to kill, like, a 4-on-1 ratio is hard. We're talking like 100-on-1 ratio. So, like, don't get your name on posters. It's not a good idea.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's yeah. Once you introduce the concept that, like, oh yeah, you're now there's an even more overwhelming force.
Yeah.
That's coming against you guys. Yeah.
Yeah, like you said, it would just escalate until it's like sparse combat after sparse combat to frequent combat after frequent combat to and to eventually it just being like, oh, you guys this is a fight till you drop type situation. That's where you're at now.
Yeah.
It's the fall of Reach. You know how this ends.
You know, the funny thing about this is that we're supposed to be talking about villains, and everyone you're describing sounds more like a hero because they're opposed
Because
to us.
we were the bad guys in that game, realistically.
Well, so that part of me when I come up with or when I want to come up with villains in a world, I don't like. Generally, I don't like the concept that a villain is just villainous.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Like-
I would agree completely.
Oh, this guy's a villain. He's just an evil guy. That's he's just Sauron. He's just like this evil entity, this
Yeah.
evil presence that is just doing evil acts and is just
I-
killing and slaughtering and all that stuff. It's like
I tend to write powerful, and then you could make that a villain.
because even like the original mage, he was just a guy who was a very strong mage who just wanted to have fun.
Yeah.
He was just doing fun, and one of the ways he could make money in order to support the lifestyle of having fun and bringing people into this crazy club that he wanted to make
Yeah.
was he just takes contract jobs. And he just didn't care if the job was something that was beneficial or something that would hurt people. Like, he was just like, in the eyes of the world, some of his acts are villainous, and he could become a villain. The only reason why he even he got even more locked into that role is the introduction of the Shattered, killing his friends. These are people that he grew his little empire with. In order to save them from dying, he got even further connected into this bigger world of like even more crime and villainy. So like in my mind, that character isn't inherently evil. He's not like a guy trying to do these evil acts. He's a guy trying to protect his friends and people having a good time and you know the things he wants to do. It's
powerful, not necessarily villain.
Yeah, a little selfish and powerful. That's kind of some of where that comes from. And even like
I agree with that though. Like that's like I said, I think I write very similarly in the sense that like I also don't like the villain for villain's sake or pure evil. I don't like that as a bad guy. So I totally agree with like the concept behind like a more nuanced bad guy that's not necessarily a bad guy, but he could be a bad guy to you.
Yeah. That to me that's where I like to write villains. I like to write the like sympathetic villain. I think that's like the term for it.
Oh, the Wilderdam.
Yeah.
There's a lot of sympathetic bad guy in there. To which like there's his patron, which is the Leviathan. What the patron wants at the end of the day, whether you ever know this or not, is Wilderdam, the dam that makes this valley an opportunity for society and has been for a very long time. That dam going up has blocked the Leviathan from being able to travel through what was its domain through like very deep, very large river systems. So like that's why the patron wants it opened. And then, like I said, you don't find this out until later in the game, but the villain of that game, the Warlock, that's the head of the cult, he could have flooded the valley before you got there. The talking about hitting that like sympathetic villain note. The reason why he hasn't just flooded the valley is because he's trying to get all of the people out of there. He's trying not to kill everybody. So like the more you push him, the more you push against him and it looks like his plan might fail, the more likely he is to have to kill a lot of people. But it's not his goals. Yeah. His goals, he tried running a campaign to get people out of the valley, which for obvious reasons wouldn't work. It'd be like just like someone coming in and running for mayor in LA and being like, everybody's got to move out. Like, of course not.
Yeah.
But he did try and do that. And now he's trying to force everybody to relocate because he's going to open up this dam. But the reality is he could have done that since before you were called to action.
Yeah.
So like, there's that little bit of sympathy of like, hey, I'm also trying to save people here.
Also, yeah, don't get me wrong though. Even like not all my villains are like that. I have like members of the Shattered Gang that I had written. Some of them were that classic, evil to be evil. They're just selfish. They don't care, narcissistic. It's their goals. It's what they want. They got powerful enough to be able to kind of push their body weight around, and they're just doing that.
Sure.
So like, it reminds me a little bit of some of the villains, the bad guys in G&G.
I was going to talk about that specifically. I wanted to talk about Calloway.
Yeah, where like some of those guys are just bad psychopathic guys, and like there's nothing wrong with writing that character, with writing that like
absolutely,
with like, writing that as your villain, because it's a good villain. It's a guy. The stories that you can write from that, the callousness in which he would treat life, and like the callousness in which he would do certain things. It's like it draws more from players.
Yeah,
where like. Here's a sympathetic note where like, oh, this guy is just, he's going around snapping babies' ankles and like, like who does that? Why, whatever. Like, so just a bad guy.
For G&G, I can't talk too much directly about Calloway because other than in your backstory, him having one line and you didn't even see him. It was like him shouting from the woods. You guys never met Calloway? And I don't even know that you guys would, just the way that G&G works. You'll probably just take a pot shot at him at some point. But perspective-wise, if he were to go uncontested, this was kind of my thought process of him. Look at the things he was doing in Fuck. What was the town that you guys did the hotel? You burned down the hotel? I can't think of the name.
The name of the hotel?
The name of
Monbros?
the town.
Oh,
Monbros. Look at what they were doing in Monbros. They weren't just being gangsters and riding through town and shooting their guns in the air. They were getting involved in all of the businesses and whatnot. If you guys if you guys didn't exist, probably, eventually, Calloway would probably have them killed. Probably would get rid of the more like crazier of his lieutenants. He would probably eventually have to get rid of them. But then the ones like Shara's backstory probably would have stuck around.
Mm-hmm.
Probably what the outcome would be if you guys didn't exist is eventually he would just be like a businessman who just has his fingers in so many pots and then stops doing the crime part of it. And then probably eventually, like Rockefeller, he just becomes a name in history of like a rich family. That's probably what Calloway just becomes eventually.
Yeah.
Is he just has so many investments, so many businesses, stops doing the crime part of it and handles things in a more above board way, and then just becomes a powerful rich person in the world of Murica, and probably his name just still exists, and there's like a great grandchild that's the head of some tech company in the modern day time with the last name Calloway. That's probably what would happen if he went uncontested.
Yeah.
Now, his origins are from being a brutal gang. He has evil people in his gang, and they are brutal and horrible. So, like, he definitely is evil. But, like, he's not just going around snapping ankles, like you were saying.
Yeah.
He's trying to start a business empire.
Yeah.
But you guys never met him, so I can't talk about him too much. But like, what was his name? The one that Shara killed? Eli. I really liked Eli.
Yeah.
As a character. I mean, he was a bad guy, and like, you guys did probably need to take him out. There's maybe a way. It's a TTRPG. There's maybe a way where you guys could have not shown him the errors of his ways, but shown him that you guys are a force to be reckoned with, and that you are going to take out the 103rd, and therefore he probably is better off riding off in the distance. It'd be a stretch. Maybe he would join you, because he does not like the 103rd. He was one of the like lieutenants, but he does not like the 103rd. He just perpetually lives his life in survival mode, and frankly, they were the ones surviving. And he regretted every person he had to kill in the name of doing that. So, like, I don't know. I like, there was a lot of character in him. Like, whenever he talked to Shara, there was a lot of like regret behind his eyes. He was still doing it, and he was still doing bad things, but like, there was like a level of, from his perspective, necessity.
Yeah.
I think he was a cool villain, because he was a bad guy, and he absolutely was going to do bad things in your direction.
I mean, his backstory in and of itself was he did very bad things specifically, or
To Shara, yeah.
to Shara. So Shara had this really bad interaction with him. I think in like the history checks or the histories of our characters, like it was one of the things where like I wanted to initiate a conversation with Eli.
Yeah, because you guys used to ride together.
We used to ride together. I knew him. I knew part of me was like, at least part of my character in that story was like, my character specifically was also riding the edge of being 103rd.
Yeah.
And also being the gang I was a part of, the faction of the gang I was a part of, where like, you know, do what you need to do, like if you need to do it in order to survive.
Oh, and I think in that way you would have related to Eli pretty significantly.
Yeah. So like in my mind, it's like, oh, cool. That's kind of like I there's a chance that I could talk to Eli about what's happening about Shara and everything, whatever. I think we'd known at the time that Shara was captured.
Yes.
Yeah.
You knew. I think you knew Shara's backstory,
Yeah.
but also another point of note. Eli never directly wronged the Thomas Reed gang.
Of course. That
It's
again,
like he wronged Shara, who later became a part of your
Yeah.
gang, but like he left the whole rivalry and later got clicked up with the 103rd.
yeah.
So like he didn't. It's not like when you guys were feuding and having all those problems that he switched sides. He left and then later became a part of that opposing side.
Yeah, it was one of those things where in my mind with the character and that interaction I potentially could have had with Eli, and kind of like what you said, like there's the chance that we convince him to whatever. I had no, when I was gonna have that conversation with him, even though me and him didn't necessarily have bad blood as our characters.
Yeah.
I had a lot of bad blood with 103rd. He rolled with 103rd for whatever his reasons were.
He knew he was so he was going to go in alone, but he wasn't an idiot. He was also going to have your camp surrounded. He was gonna if he was able to nail it. If Shara wasn't in the situation that Shara was in, and you guys didn't know they were coming, there would have been a lot of loss for your gang.
Yeah.
If you killed him.
Yeah.
So basically, there was going to be a contingency where he was going to walk in alone, unarmed, hands in the air, to try and have a conversation with Botten and Thomas, warning you guys that this is not a smart road.
Yeah.
And if he didn't walk out of there, you guys would have been in a firefight where the surprise round would have been against you, and all of the non-combatant NPC camp members would have been in the crossfire.
Of course. And even when we found out, because one of the three people that Shara was riding with ran off and got our attention. That's how we found out what was happening. When I went to go cut off, to go approach them to have that conversation, I had no intention. I had no idea. I did not think I would ever convince Eli to not run with the 103rd or convince his group to like depart of their current mission and goal. At no point that I knew eventually Eli was gonna have to die. Like there was no way of not having that happen.
It depends. If you had that conversation with Eli and Eli walked away, and then you guys went and did Mombros and whatever you would do after that, you started taking out other lieutenants and blah, 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 he might have just left.
Potentially. I think the best outcome that I could have reached with Eli would have been us stalemating and us and his section of the gang separating our ways.
Yep.
And then, like you said, if then we, at that point, we went off and we killed more 103rd and Eli was abreast about what was happening. And he was like, oh, you have killed larger and larger sections of the 103rd. And we met up with him again. Potentially then, yes, there would be a conversation of even allying.
Potentially.
Eli and his subset.
It would have been a stretch, but it wasn't like written that this wouldn't be possible in any way. But like, there's a chance that in that conversation at camp with his guys surrounding it, where you guys maybe, because you guys were friends.
Yeah.
So you could have maybe swayed him to walk away. I doubt you could have had him switch sides, but he might have given up his guys. He didn't like his guys. His guys were with some of his men. Actually, that's probably how I would have played it. It was like, hey, some of these guys are just guys. Some of them are good guys. I'd prefer if they didn't get caught in the crossfire. But then he might have given you some of his guys and then just left.
Yeah.
Like he's like, cool, I need to walk out of here for you guys to live. And then I'm going to be here. And on the third night, I'm not going to be there, but my group will. Have fun. Like I could see him potentially, if you played on the sympathy card, potentially going that way. It also could have gone really south. He could have walked out of there and maybe decided that, based on the conversation, that you guys got to be taken out.
Yeah.
Also a possibility. It was really, really open-ended with Eli. He was there to warn you, but, it all depends on how you guys act.
Yeah.
Instead, he got one-shotted.
Well, several attempts at a one-shot. several attempts to try to do.
It was pretty beautiful.
Yeah. It was a pretty good end for that character. But again, it's that is playing more of that villain who is making difficult choices, not a villain who is just evil.
Yeah.
Which again, it's the place I like to play more often than not in terms of when I create villains and the ideas I create for villains is I like to have them have a reason. Like I understand that.
Also, like Cackling Cassidy and Mad Dog, those two, definitely evil. Big Gus did evil things. He's a much better follower, though. So with Calloway's direction, you guys saw a branch of his gang just doing business. So like he's kind of too dumb to be pure evil, though he's more than willing to do evil things. And evil things happen under his leadership. But like his whole shtick is this is a little bit meta because I know if we ever go back, you guys are going to have to contend with him. But like his whole shtick is like, he's a good follower. He's a good leader and he's a good follower. And so under the direction of Calloway and what Calloway's trying to do, he's not pure evil. And he's kind of too dumb to be pure evil. He's not like an idiot, but he's kind of dumb.
Yeah.
So like even him, there's like more nuance to. He's not just pure evil. He might be. That's a lot meta now. He might be someone that you could have turn sides for the same reason, the survival thing. Like, not because you guys are the good guys, but if you guys are winning.
I mean, there's, going into that meta conversation, we were starting to kill a lot of his guys. I don't know how much he would be. I don't know how much the idea in my head was playing with, oh, yes, let's ally with Gus or let's.
No, not at all.
Yeah.
I just mean, like, I think if there was anyone to turn tail outside of Eli, I think Eli's even more likely to just walk away. I think if there was anyone to turn sides, it would not be for moral reasons, but you could maybe get Gus on your side. Then you have two tanks.
You know what else is very immoral?
Whoring ourselves out to sponsors because we need money?
Yeah, commercialized products. Yeah,
commercialized products. Yeah. I'm gonna have to hear this one in the recording as soon as we do the rolls and whatnot. I'm gonna have to dip out and use the restroom.
Okay. I forgot to do this.
Yeah.
Yeah, I always forget to do it. But
you definitely do. We can when we come back, we can get into.
Here we go.
We can get into.
Let's get hyped. Let's go and
Getting
roll.
hyped.
yeah, we can get.
On the loot.
I have a thought. I'll just keep it.
Yeah.
Let's go and see who our sponsors will be.
Also, fuck you for singing along.
Let's go. Let's go.
I made it way harder to line up.
Really? I actually use it. I cue it with singing along.
Yeah, it makes it so you have to cue it. That's why I say fuck you. Because without it, you can kind of just ballpark where to shove the song in the edit.
Oh,
but with you singing along, I'm like, it's off.
I like it when I do the edit. I didn't realize you didn't like it.
No, it's fine. Keep doing it. All right. Today's sponsors. It is nice. 6 on the die. Who's 6 on the die? Bardemic Tunes. I want to stick around.
Just hold it in.
Yeah, but I can't hold it in the whole. Yeah, fuck it. Hit us with Bardic Tunes. Bardemic.
How many times has this happened to you? You're out tavern hopping with your brand new loot, playing some of the classics for your everyday bar patron, and collecting whatever coins they toss your way. You get home, count your earnings, and go to sleep feeling good. Great, even. Then, in the morning, you find a letter nailed to your door informing you that you owe some guy half the money you earned playing your songs last night. Yes, you just got hit by a BMCA, a Bardic Music Copyright Act.
Oh my God.
It's time to pay up or hit the road. That'll show you for playing the songs that you know. But if you bought some royalty-free songs from Bardemic Tunes, all that money you earned that night would stay right where it belongs. In your pocket. Yes, Bardemic Tunes hosts a whole library full of scores and scrolls that are licensed from bards all across the land, specifically to sell to the fledgling artist for royalty-free use. Play these in your local tavern and nobody will come looking to collect your dues. Be it a street performance or a distraction for a second-story crew, don't let yourself be robbed in the process. Play instead a Bardemic tune.
That's maybe my favorite so
Dude.
far. And can I tell you why it's maybe my favorite so far?
Sure.
I'm something of a bard myself.
I get it.
And time again, I find that when I play my own tunes, there's one or two people in the corner of the tavern bobbing their heads. But it's not what the crowd wants. What the crowd wants is the classics. They want something they know the words to they could sing along to.
Sure.
But I'm tired of going back to my local inn, going to sleep, and then the next morning finding out, oh, that song I played in the tavern, I owe someone money now. And so I tend not to do it, but it hurts my business because now I'm playing songs that people don't know the words to. But with this service, I could presumably buy the rights to songs. And then when I go and belt out my melodies and my ballads and people are singing along, I can do so with the comfort of knowing that I have already purchased the rights to these things and I'm not going to owe anybody money. So it's not something I'm currently invested in, but it sounds like something I could put my bardic inspiration behind.
Yeah, I mean, that's pretty good. That was a pretty good tag. I like that tag.
I never know what the next words are coming out of my mouth are going to
Same.
be. I just keep talking and hope something lands.
Same, dude.
Like a true bard.
Yeah, or like a true DM.
Yeah.
Just start going. Let's see where
Just
it
start
lands.
going. Something will happen. Yeah, this sounds like something I can get involved with.
Oh yeah, I mean, when I talk to bards and I didn't realize this was a struggle until Bardemic Tunes reached out to us. I never once I heard about this and I was like, oh, let's start looking into the sponsor because we look into every single sponsor. We don't just
Of
take
course.
anything. Yeah,
Yeah.
we got to make sure it's an ethical company that they're doing things right. And then I started talking to some of my bard friends and they're like, yeah, dude, it's a huge amount of their concern and even their active income is having to pay these BMCA rights. It's pretty.
Yeah.
I said that right.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's BMCA rights. It just, and sometimes, if they play a concert long enough, these guys will come in and bust open the door and tell them to shut it down. It's the whole thing. So knowing that there's a company out there that either they are dealing with the whole licensing issues or
Yeah.
they're giving this music that is pretty, I've seen some of their catalog. Some of it is, maybe it's not the tune that you grew up with, but it's just as catchy. It has really good rhythm and it's not too complicated in the lyrics. So the tavern's going to be singing along pretty quickly. They're going to get the lyrics. They're going to get what's happening.
Well, and that's only for their lower tiers. So if you look at their more premium content, they do have better known verses that you can pay a little bit more money for on the front end, but not pay for in these bardic copyright issues on the back end.
Yeah. It's good stuff, man. It's a good company.
Well, there's just nothing worse than playing a full set in front of, the lords and nobles of a town. And then at the end of the set, for someone you don't even know to come up with some piece of paper telling you you've been demonetized for the evening. There's no worse feeling.
Yeah.
I hate this part of the show.
I honestly, I with the versions that you're doing recently, I'm gonna isolate these bits and they're gonna be their own thing, of just like our ad reads. They're gonna be its own playlist.
Our own shorts
Yeah.
and our we should do that for now on.
Yeah,
We should absolutely just have a playlist with Take the Damage ad reads, Take the Damage sponsors, and it's just the clip out from the sponsors.
Yeah.
It fades in with the loop music, and then is just the ad read, and then our just spewing nonsense.
So understand that I get that you hate this part, but you're stuck now. This is what you're going to be doing for our show now. Yeah.
Hey, look, we don't make you talk about the ads continuously for like 10 minutes straight.
Because I wouldn't.
You just have to sit through it.
Hey,
It's the hard part.
Also, my favorite part about you not liking it is that it is not formulaically a part of our show. As in, like, we've never sat down and talked about, like, oh, when we do our ad reads, we have to in character talk about it for like 5-10 minutes or whatever. It just happens naturally every time, which is indicative to me of how much me and Nix just love it.
yeah.
And that it's not forced, and therefore, to your dismay and my chagrin?
Yeah, chagrin's good.
Chagrin.
It works.
It's never going away.
This is the part where you get the little T-mod loader pop up.
All right, you guys talk villains, and I'm gonna go.
Yeah. I
use
was
the
gonna
restroom.
shoot over to Gray about like your take on the general subject.
None of my villains really exist inside my stories. They're kind of outside. They exist in the world.
They influence events in the world that your players have to deal with.
They've influenced events that have made the world to what its current state is.
Oh, okay.
And story-wise, because I always play my own homebrew. The biggest villains are kind of like in their infancy stage, like they're teenagers right now doing their thing,
Okay.
like growing up, kind of coming of age and stuff. So they're not really present.
So you don't often write for your games with your players. You don't often write them with like an antagonistic villain in mind.
Well, no. I mean, because I wrote the world, but like if a player has like a particular backstory that I could play off of, like
Oh, so if the player writes in that they have like a villain-esque or a villain in their backstory, then you'll start incorporating that into the events.
So
of the story.
so like I have in my latest long form campaign, one of my characters his character's backstory, that somebody killed his father and mother and crippled his brother, and they're trying to find out who that is. They want to find out who that is. And so that villain exists, but it's kind of like it's very background, right? As opposed to like the other characters in the world that would be villains, they're story characters in some other place.
Yeah.
In time long ago, far away.
Yeah. Very, very little to do with things that your players are dealing with. It's just how you set up the world in your world history.
Yeah.
Huh.
Well, your games are also like kind of like what me and Nix were talking about earlier with the writing just like powerful beings in our worlds. Your games are usually a little bit more freeform, or a lot more freeform. So like the idea of there being a big villainous bad, it lends itself to that less.
Yeah,
I imagine.
there was a couple of those, like Eldritch Flesh Horrors are almost always villains in my world.
But
and they
does the
stumbled
campaign
into
end
them.
when that villain ends?
No.
Exactly. So it's kind of like a powerful entity in the world that you could interact with, but it's not necessarily like
The big bad.
the big bad.
Mhm.
It's funny that all three of us share this opinion, by the way, because like 90% of like the shorts and TikTok videos and whatnot that come across my way are referencing the big bad and the there was a funny one recently where the player pronounced it like babug or something like that. Like, oh, is this the babug? I'm like, wait, what?
Yeah, I mean, it's. I mean, not to pivot away from what what Gray was saying. Did you finish up or was there more that you wanted to talk about your setup?
Well, you're talking about the flesh horror thing.
Yeah, flesh
Dig
horrors.
into that a bit.
Like, one of them was attached to their arm for a while, and then another one was just.
Can you explain that? Because I think that's lost tapes, but that's really cool.
So in my first long form campaign, I only had 2 players. Well, I had 4 players. One never showed up. One showed up for 1 session and threw a lot of things into events. That was really funny. And then the 2 continued playing. One of them played a character who's really dumb and kind of did things without thinking. And so one day, one of the villainous-ish characters that they were in contact with is like, hey, I want to buy magical items, like, all players like to do.
Mm-hmm.
And like, hell yeah, here's this thing. It's like a what was it originally? It was like it looked like a black leather whip of some sort. And they're like, ooh, what is that? And they touched it, and the thing crawls onto their arm. And so now they just have this like black thing coiled onto their arm, which acts like a venom parasite.
Sure.
From Spider-Man.
Sure.
And so they spend the rest of their campaign killing things, and that thing likes to just consume bodies and souls and stuff.
Oh my god, I'm so putting that into one of my games.
And eventually they come across these things they come across these guys. I just called them Pinkertons because it's essentially what they were.
Yeah.
Sure.
And they're hunting that character down specifically because in session 2, this character essentially murdered a bunch of people in a brothel trying to free some elven slaves. And the person knew who they were, and they put bounty posters up for them, and that trail was being hunted down for 30 sessions.
Uh-huh.
And so these guys are not human. There's some sort of evil homunculus creature things, and they killed them all. And the thing on their arm, they had to use a lot to kill them all. And they killed them all, and then the arm thing, the parasite decided to just grow. Turn into a big old monster. And they were attached to it. They only got away for cutting off their arm. And they were very unhappy about it.
So here's my thought process. Immediately, I want to put that into one of my games, which is to like give someone a weapon, and it's like a +1 weapon.
Sure.
Which for my games, like I suck at putting magical items into my games anyways. So it's like a +1 weapon, whatever it is, make something enticing to the characters. And like when they wield it, it feels alive. And then when they get their first kill, that's when I'll have it latch onto them a little bit. And we're like, yeah, you feel this thing kind of attach itself to you. You also feel a strange amount of like surge of energy.
Yeah.
You feel more powerful with this item in your hand. And then just let them continue playing the game and be like, oh yeah, that's not just magical now. Now it's a +1. And then if they get a second kill, it's like, yeah, that's a +2 now. It also grows up your arm. Oh, it's a +3 now. It's like at your shoulder now. And just keep making it a plus whatever until they realize, like, also have it start influencing them would be great.
Yeah.
Where it's like you get into a situation and be like, oh, can you make me a wisdom check or wisdom saving throw real quick? Cool. There's something about if it's like low success, under 20, but success, it's like, there's something about this situation. You feel strangely aggressive. You want to wield your weapon in this situation. Anyways, what are you guys doing? And then just like slowly have them more and more compelled to be more and more aggressive as this parasite thing takes over their body. And then eventually I would just like, if they don't do anything about it, it's like, yeah, it's +2, it's +3, it's +4,
Yeah.
it's a +5. And then like by the time you get to like a +10 or something like that and be like, yeah, okay, you feel compelled to attack your party.
Yeah. It's like a
to the point of killing your character. And it's like, yeah, I've given you so many hints. You could have gone and got the curse released or whatever.
Yeah.
Find a mage,
It's
release
like
the
a
curse.
variation of like the Venom suit, like the Venom symbiote. And
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah, 'cause I did give them that kind of flag because when they got more kills with it, it started to grow up more and more.
Yeah, that's what I'm gonna do.
Yeah.
I'm gonna have it grow.
It was very much Venom inspired.
Yeah.
Yeah. I absolutely love that. I need to think of a way where there's enough of like somehow it doesn't have to be in your hand.
I mean,
Because having to walk around with a weapon, I feel like, is too big of a call. Because it's like, oh, I'm talking to the lady Asserton of House Asserton about blah blah. Also, I'm wielding a knife the whole time.
you could take a if you don't want a visual marker, you could take a cue from, or if you don't mind a visual marker, take a note from like Naruto, like anime, where there's like a thing with the characters is called a curse mark. There's some characters who just have like it looks like a almost like a tattoo on their body, and when they use it more and more, the tattoo grows. Like the tattoo grows and the design becomes more complicated.
Oh my
and
god!
it like extends on their body.
I know what I.
So if you want to
do
do something, play with an idea like that.
you make it a glove, and they're like, what's this? And it's like, oh, it allows you to roll a D4, and it is considered magical. Oh, cool. And then they get their first kill with it, and it's like, cool. Yeah, it's a D6 now, +1 to hit. Also, it is no longer a glove as this thing sinks into your skin and grows up past your wrist. That's all, though. You could still wield weapons and whatnot, but if you make an unarmed strike with that and you get a kill, it goes up in dice class every time, and it goes up in plus to hit every time. But also, it's also every time you're in a situation that's somewhat tense, just have you make wisdom saving throws to force you into battles and force you to get more kills, because it feeds off of the kills and crawls up your body more and is just going to ruin your life.
You know what's funny?
You could always dispel the curse, and then you lose the item.
Because you're talking about how it like sinks in. I had an idea as you were talking, which is, oh, what if it just like, yeah, okay, it's a glove, and then you get a kill or whatever the thing is, it becomes more like a gauntlet. It extends, not necessarily gets fully imprinted. Maybe maybe you can't remove it, but it becomes more armor, so that like eventually when you become enough of the thing, you are this fully armored character.
Oh, that'd be an even cooler thing to do. Is like the first thing is like, okay, it's you have this in your hand. If you it's now a D4, and then after you get a kill with it, then it's like, okay, now it's a +1, and then it grows a little bit more, and it's like, cool. It's covering enough of your arm, and you get the feeling that you can use this as protection. You now have +1 to your AC. And just slowly, just like, don't ever overpower any particular part of it, but just slowly have it be more versatilely beneficial to them as it takes over their body.
The thing I was going to get to too is, I would love to, if I had something like that, if I built something like that, to, even if the world that it belonged to, let's say it's some part of folklore, there was some sort of like villainesque, if going back to villain, there was some sort of like evil lord that existed that wore this particular armor. This character who's using this weapon gets more and more of this armor, and as soon as it becomes part of a helmet, it is the same fashion that is this old lord.
Oh, that's so fucking cool. That's what I'm doing.
So that like now
that's
people
so
become
fucking cool. It's like,
of this person.
yeah. It's like if you were to don the armor of Sauron, and it's like, what you didn't what the folklore doesn't realize, and you only realize, or you start to presume, but you can only fully realize once you are fully helmeted. It's like, oh no, Sauron is the armor.
Yeah.
You like,
have now become.
You are that thing now.
Yeah, you are now the evil lord.
That would be so cool to have it like, when it takes over, don't have it attack the party. Instead, when it takes over, if they allow it and they ignore every hint, and you have to be heavy-handed with the hints here, otherwise it'll feel fucked up. But it's like, and there's salvation to it. But if you let it get that far to the point where it becomes the full helmet, then as soon as it becomes a full helmet, it's like, cool. Turn to a different character. So like, let's say, Nyx, you get this kill, and the armor, the like symbiotic living armor that you are currently wearing throughout your entire body now begins to crawl up your neck as it crests over your face, slowly sinking your vision behind it as it creeps up into your eyes. And then snap over to another character. Gray, you see it completely encase Nyx's head as it starts to form into a crown of black moving horns around the crown of your friend's head, and the eyes sink in with a horrible depth, blah, blah, blah. And then Nyx disappears into shadow. Nyx, I need you to roll a new character.
And now you have a big bad.
And make that the big bad.
Yeah.
And then, but furthermore, make there a way where you can save Nyx.
Yeah, the original character.
Yeah, and
underneath.
bring that character back into the party.
Yeah.
But they are a big bad in the world until, oh my God, that's so
Yeah.
fucking beautiful.
This is a really fun way to play with it.
That's such
Yeah.
a cool thing to do. And like, we're talking like 6+ steps with heavy hints each time.
I feel
and the
like
hints getting heavier and heavier. And like some type of answer of like greater restoration could cure the curse, and it turns back into a glove and it's on your hand and you're like, well, it's decision time. And I would say like if you do that, it grows even faster. And they'll recognize that where it's like, oh, it's a glove again. And it's like, well, if we could just hit reset, that's worth the 100 gold to pay a cleric to greater restoration. And then you get your first kill and it hops you up 2 steps. And it's like, oh, every time we uncurse me, it
like
grows faster.
And the further it goes up the scale, the harder it becomes. Like you'd have to have greater restoration and even higher casting or whatever it is, the thing. I think there's a really fun and interesting way to play with that idea. If the thing is you have to have a member of your party who's either willing to play along with that concept or like a power gamer. If you realize you have a power gamer at your table, and you go like, cool, you have to make it worth enough where they're willing to play into it and willing to go that far with it. Yeah. Because that's where it becomes like, you know, a little hard to manage it. Like to manage the
I am
letting that player go that far.
I'm perpetually trying to keep the romance story that I've told you about multiple times. I'm trying to keep that character interesting, the NPC, while also remaining somewhat neutral. Because if anything ever happens to my PC, I would love to be like, hey, you can write a new character, or you can respec that NPC and now play as the other side of that romance.
That's interesting.
So if it was that PC that got the glove,
to then do the switch,
then do the switch, and then you're not even bringing anyone new to the table, that would just be a really cool way to do it.
Yeah.
I do have a different player though that is playing an artificer in much more of a support way, roleplay wise. I think I can entice her with a punch glove. How about a punch glove? How about a powerful punch glove? How about
crazy thing?
How about a crazy powerful punch glove? How about a new character sheet?
It's funny because it's before, you know, jumping off of what Gray was talking about, we were talking about big bads. It's like, yeah, I don't often write stuff with big bads. I do have them in the story. Usually they're in the background, kind of a little bit like Gray was saying, like, but yours are like it in the background and in the past. This is a great way to have big bad. I think I only have like one active story that's rolling around in my head where I have a big bad that is like kind of like what you were saying, which is once you fight them, this is kind of the conclusion of the story. The whole story is kind of reliant and built off of fighting this big bad.
Wilderdem is that.
Yeah. I think I only have one current story that I'm playing around in my head that is like that.
So, the story I'm currently writing that I said that you guys could help me out with, because I haven't gotten to the point of fully writing it. I just wrote the hook. But the gist is, I have a player that wants to play in another game with me and joined one of my games. And then I was talking to him and I was like, hey, did you join this because this actually intrigues you? Or did you join this because it's the most intriguing of what I had listed? And it was the latter. And I was like, well, the last time we started a game, it was just you and me. What if we come up with an idea? And they kind of gave me an idea of what character they want and the type of game that they wanted to play in, but nothing more. And then I sat on that for a few days and I started rolling around this concept where I was like, okay, the same world that they had played or that they had tried to join, I was like, what if we put 100 years of history on top of that world, and then, like a little kid, after building a block city and looking at it and appreciating it for a moment, as I do with that world that I had built, let's start kicking those blocks over.
Yeah.
So on one side of the map, a female entity from the Nine Hells, fissures start opening up in the ground, and they start just chaotically and destructively attacking cities and whatnot. It's one side of the map. On the other side of the map, the veil between the material plane and the Shadowfell start to blur as this other entity. I haven't decided what they are. I think she's going to be like some type of fire elemental. I haven't decided what he is. I don't want him to be a vampire for various reasons, but I do want the Shadowfell aspect. I kind of want them, although this is Fae, I kind of want them to be a shapeshifter, like a changeling. It doesn't have to be changeling specifically. But anyways, on this side of the map, it's more like dark influence. So like twisted tongue whispers in politicians' ears and just turning the city to darkness, but also with a kind of chaotic twist. And so that's sprouting up. And as the campaign goes, this is on two sides of my world, this island continent. As it goes, it starts like getting more and more chaotic and more destructive and creeping closer and closer to each other. The background is it's like a Romeo and Juliet kind of story. So these two are prince and princesses of their own domains, and they are coming to the material plane, turning it to chaotic sunder in order to join together and have a place where they can coexist in their chaotic romance. As they are destroying this island continent and turning it to darkness in the meantime. So that's like the overall story. And I want it to be like proper villains. So the different versions of proper villains that I want is I want a moment with the fire elemental from the Nine Hells. I want a moment where I want for both sides of it, wherever they decide to go first, I want multiple instances of them meeting the big bads and there to be like monologues, blah, blah, blah. With her, I want like the first instance of it to be her kicking their asses.
Okay.
And just seeing how powerful she is, even though I'm starting them off at like level 6. Like she just walks all over them.
Mm-hmm.
And then for him, I want it to be way more political. I want it to be way more like corrupting the cities. But I would love to hear your guys' thoughts on like how to achieve those things. So like on this side, hell opening up and almost seeming like pointless or purposeless attacks on towns that are like very just like hot, very quick, just like, oh yeah, a demon rips out of the ground in this town and attacks it for like a day and then just leaves. I want minions to be a part of both aspects of it. One through corruption and one through like demons from hell. Demons are the chaotic one, right?
Yes, demons are chaos.
Yes.
Demons are chaos. So yeah, a lot of like demons and shit and chaos and blah, blah, blah. on this side, and then a lot of like dark society shit and corruption and twisting noblemen and things like that on the other side. But I've never written that style of big bad, so like how on either side to achieve those moments of like having interactions with these big bads and just who they are. I feel like I need to know a lot more about the Shadowfell to know what would be from the Shadowfell that's not
Well,
a vampire that fits that role, because clearly vampire would fit that role very well. Dark society, corruption, blah blah blah.
wait, are both of these entities from Shadowfell or
No.
just
She is from
the Nine
Hells,
Hells?
and
Well, she would have to be from the Abyss to be a demon. If you're going for 5e lore, wouldn't be Nine Hells, it'd be the Abyss.
oh.
If you're going with like devil,
I mean, she herself doesn't need to be a demon.
I'm just saying if you're
Are there no demons in hell?
they're part of the war. Demons fight.
Demons
devils.
invade hell because the devils are trying to maintain the order while demons are trying to destroy it.
Yeah, and demons in again 5e lore or in D&D lore, Forgotten Realms lore, it's demons are chaos from the abyss. They flood the Nine Hells with armies of demons, and the devils keep them at bay from essentially having the demons take over the Nine Hells and take over the rest of the multiverse.
Yeah.
Or the rest of the planes.
That still kind of fits then, because they're taking over a part of the material plane,
yeah,
just from the abyss, not from.
yeah.
Hells.
The idea that a demon would want to come to the mortal realm and disrupt things and destroy things completely lines up. It wouldn't be from the Nine Hells. It'd be from the abyss. The abyss also has like layers.
Yeah.
So there are like
The only
there's
problem is
depth
that I've
to the
already
abyss.
by name mentioned the Nine Hells. I've kind of pigeonholed myself a little bit, but it could be just the demons that are in hell trying to take over hell
I mean, you could
get pulled away for whatever reason.
you could also easily have it where this character, this whatever, is a devil, but has been corrupted by a demon. So in her battles against whatever demon lieutenant or demon captain or whatever I don't know what their rankings
sure.
are, that it has corrupted her in the middle of the fight, and now she is way more chaotic than she is that lawful nature.
That actually adds a really nice touch. That, because I want to play like ambient metal music when you're over in the fucking part of the world that hell's taking over, and I want it to be like a lot of combat. I want that to be like the very actiony part of the map, whereas this is the more political role playing part of the map. If that makes sense.
Yeah.
So it's actually a cool if I could figure out how to streamline figuring that out. If she's a devil that's been corrupted by a demon that makes her chaotic, and that's why she's doing what she's doing, then potentially not just killing her. Because I think both of them should have a way. In fact, it should be the goal not to necessarily have to kill them. Or you could progress through your levels and then take them on later. But having her corrupted by your pitch of having her corrupted by a demon could be the angle in which you resolve her part of the world, because if you could remove that demon somehow, she would go back to being lawful.
So in my mind, there's a couple things, at least. I don't know how well you are versed with the lore. So if you kill a devil in the mortal plane, they just go back to hell.
Sure.
It's not a permanent death. You could do the corruption or removing the corruption.
I love that idea.
The corruption idea. I'm saying like removing it as part of the way to resolve her. The other thing you can do, considering if you are going to go with the fact that she is a devil, and if you're going to stick really well or really close to like Forgotten Lore or Forgotten Realms lore, you could also have your players potentially go through the Nine Hells. Find out if they know what rank she is in the Nine Hells, whatever, and you just go to her higher up and let them know that this person is causing this issue. And essentially, at least as far as I know, I know if you go all the way to Asmodeus, like he would be one of those people that like if a devil's fucking up, he'd put him in line. Pretty sure you could probably do that with somebody that is higher ranking than this devil. Would that be a possibility? I'm looking at Gray.
I think it's
I'm pretty sure
fine.
that's how it goes.
Yeah, you'd have somebody higher ranking correct
Usually,
this person.
yeah, usually like devil. If the devil,
yeah,
just yes.
yeah. I'm pretty sure that's how it works. So that
I would
is-
probably want to do it on the material plane, but that actually could be a cool instance of like meeting an NPC and then finding out that they're a devil and then finding out that they're higher ranked and then setting them upon. And then all of a sudden you just get a civil war happening in this part of the world
Yeah.
between devils and demons. And it's like, it's in a good direction, but it's way more chaotic now.
I was saying that there is an option in which if the characters want to resolve it not through actual combat and actually have them explore the nine hells and realize that the 9 hells, for as much as it feels like it's hell, like it isn't just pure chaos. It is lawful in its
Absolutely.
evilness. So you can explore like a more politically engaging route in order to deal with this person.
Well, I like the idea of that, but I would rather do it in the material plane only because
Just saying it is an option to consider.
yeah, I'm dealing with high levels of players knowing lore. So the more I can do things on the material plane, the more it's my world. Whereas if I start taking them to the Shadowfell or taking them to the 9 Hells, I have to do a lot of research and figure out how to do that well.
Yeah, that is true. It's also like in order to build like the up to that potential conflict is devils do have that like militaristic structure.
Yeah.
So you could have like the lieutenants, you could have the like whatever. So those are the things that your characters deal with as they build up to that. Like the first instance of meeting them could be just your characters are in a town or part of a town, and then just
My
the town
thought
gets
is like they're
fucked.
investigating or something.
Yeah, and then that town gets fucked in front of them, and they somehow escape that. Like maybe they engage in some level of combat, witnessing the power of this character, and then that's how they can get their kickoff. And the other guy being Shadowfell, that's a whole different thing. That would be
A totally different thing.
yeah, that would be dealing with that the intriguing political nature of it. It wouldn't be so like they're just strong and it's mostly centered around combat with
Yeah.
the devil character.
Yeah.
Although having the thing of corruption and dealing with that potentially could mean any issues with lieutenants could be solved because the lieutenants would be under the command of the devil. So if you free the corruption of the devil, then any instigating commanders or lieutenants that are in this part of the continent could potentially draw back their forces because
Yeah.
the corruption is gone.
That's why I really like that angle is that like you wouldn't necessarily know it unless you go down a certain path, but like even though your introduction and most of your experience in this part of the world is like super intense battles and chaos and everything, it's so destructive and chaotic. She of the two is the one that's curable. I
Mhm.
think that's super fascinating. Whereas, like, for him, I don't think he is curable. There has to be another angle for him. I don't know what it would necessarily be.
I mean, you'd have to figure out like
I think I would have to
you have to figure out what his
solidify who he
goals
is.
are and like what are the reasons why he's doing what he's doing, and like is there anything in which the players could play on this continent to either entice him to do the thing, or you'd have to maybe put something in which they can threaten him, which is like either through death in combat or something that would revert him back to the Shadowfell, like something that would
Reverting
trap
back to
him.
the Shadowfell, yeah, would be a good way.
or even just trap him in the mortal realm,
Or yeah,
like something that would like
some version of sealing up.
yeah, sealing up,
the,
returning
the bridge between the Shadowfell and some version of sealing that, I think would be good.
Yeah, maybe he has the what is maintaining his connection is some sort of item that he either has locked in a particular location or he has like a mobile guard thing.
Oh
like
yeah,
that
you
keeps
could do
moving.
some like dead man's chest shit.
Yeah,
where
yeah,
he's like
yeah.
he has like a heart.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's like,
Um,
oh, don't fight him, fight his heart.
Yeah, it's kind of like a little bit of like in the last episode I talked about like Koshi the Deathless, like how do you deal with him? He's like this like unstoppable force. Is you have to find where his heart is.
Yeah.
His heart is trapped inside of a thing, inside of another thing, inside of another thing in this other location. Like, I think it's like in a frog, in a deer, it's weirdly in animals in this location. So if you find it and you stab his heart, you kill him.
That'd be great. It also could be that the only material part of him is his heart, and then inspired by my first Realm Watchers thing, where it's like inspired by, not directly that, but where like there's like a hive mind essence to him, so he actually doesn't have a true form. Where like, and that's like part of his corruption is like he corrupts people and then becomes them. So like, the longer you allow his part of the map to exist, the more hymns there are.
This is like also like a fated lovers thing, right? Like where these two are trying to join with each other.
Yeah.
The part where my brain went right now is like potentially it could be that he might have a history of being some like being able to solve the issue of the devil and knowing that she's corrupted. He might have a way to deal with the corruption. So if you did have like a dead man's chest, if you did have this thing and you held it in front of him, and then you make him realize that the person he's trying to join with is corrupted, so you can actually have him go and deal with the corruption of his lover, and then like that is a thing that you can play with, and then once that resolves and other things can resolve, but that's more of like the ending of the story.
Or better yet would be like the realization that he might not have that he's not in love with her, he's in love with the demon that has corrupted her.
Oh, could be that. He tries to pull it out to get to the demon.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or it could be that like in the final moments with him to some degree, maybe he even knows that. And it's like, yeah, if you could get that demon out, then we can disappear into the Shadowfell or into the Abyss or whatever. So like he gives you an out.
Yeah, potentially.
And the out is solving the entirety of the other problem.
Yeah, and if he worked off of the concept of like imbuing or like becoming a part of people in his corruption, that's how his subordinates would work too, is they are just corrupted members of the society and then having to deal with them.
Yeah.
And having ways in which you, again, if it's more politically intrigue, it's how do you get to his inner circles?
Yeah.
And how do you find, and it could be that each one of these lieutenants, a hint of each one of these lieutenants has a dead man's chest. They have their own version of it. Like that's how the first version of this gets found out is maybe that guy has it a little too close to his chest. He's gripping it or like it's on his person.
Well, what might be cool is too is divergence. So like the people he corrupts, he becomes, but they are their own entity. So like they're not all like directly him, if that makes sense. But it all traces back to that dead man's chest heart thing.
Yeah. There's a lot of space to play with it.
I do want it to be that like Curse of Strahd epic villains. I think this is a villain story that I'm trying to tell with this one. And then, of course, because I'm an idiot and I'm like, I want to do a villain thing. Better have two. Because I'm stupid. I don't have much experience with this. I really want to take a crack at it. Better make it twice as hard.
I mean, if your inspiration was Romeo and Juliet, you wanted to do a love story mixed in with this like overwhelming force villain story. You know, I get it. I get where that could come from.
I don't even know that the Romeo and Juliet thing will ever. It's like it's one of those things where it's like it's lore that matters, but that the players might never find.
Sure, I'm just saying if it becomes a part of the thing, it can be. You know, like if they find out the information, it could be a route to success or to just other information.
Yeah.
If it becomes relevant. Again, it's one of the reasons why like. When we've had other conversations about like how you like to be and you and Gray like to be a lot more like loose and freeform and all that stuff.
Yeah, I want to write multiple answers for both problems.
Yeah. For like, I like digging deep and digging the roots and spending a lot of time trying to figure out like the stuff. I'm not saying that you guys don't. You guys do with your worlds and all that. But like the reason why is to have all these little these little routes.
Well, and I think to tell a good villain story, you kind of need to do that to a degree. So that's understanding the roots and establishing the roots, I think, is pretty important.
Yeah.
It's also like in general, just on the note of liking playing things loosey goosey. I generally do a lot of prep before a campaign so that I can be loosey goosey in the campaign.
I wasn't trying to take away from like your guys'
No. I didn't think you were.
But yeah, I mean, it sounds like a fun story. It sounds like a fun thing to explore. I think aspects of it could be hard on that devil side because it's just kind of just like battles. And so like at least in my right now when I'm thinking about it, it's
you could also have like a more powerful demon that's taken over a town, blah blah blah. Like there's definitely intrigue you could feed into that. I do want it to be a lot of it doesn't have to be all battles, but I want there to be epic battles on the devil side of things. Like the shadow side of things is more of that role playing and speaking to nobles and figuring things out and blah blah blah. Whereas over here I want there to be a lot of like really big epic moments.
Yeah.
Of like you're in combat with a demon and fire is erupting around you as the city burns.
Sure.
You're encircled by flame, blah blah blah, metal music in the background.
Yeah.
Just big combat moments. And I think a viable answer is to just fight your way through levels, like literal character levels, until you're really powerful, and then just go and kill them both. Just literally, like one answer would be level up high enough so that you can just have a big bad fight.
Yeah. Technically, it would be an impermanent solve to one of them.
Not necessarily. Even the devil going back to hell, if she is a devil and not a demon, and she goes back to hell without her demon army, that might just get resolved in hell.
Yeah. That'll make it so her return to the mortal plane would become much more difficult.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it potentially could be a permanent solve.
Yeah, I think
yeah, that's true.
Killing either of them, I do want to be a route.
Yeah. I as you explained it, like that could be. She returns and then it becomes nearly impossible, if not impossible, for her to do it again.
Yeah.
Because she would be recognized for the things that she had done and like, oh, why did you die? You just came, like, oh, what's going on?
Yeah.
What have you been doing? Yeah.
Oh my God. For him, Dragon Ball Z it. So like, if you get to a point where you have to fight him, the fight starts off and like pretty much no matter what level you are, because you're starting at level 6 with the player party, he's like weak. But then you see like visages of himself get sucked into him. So as you are etching away his health, he's becoming more powerful. So like, he has 40 hit points, you take away 10 hit points, and then you see you see like 3 of his visages just get sucked into the room. And for free without checks, give the hint that like, oh yeah, he's sucking back his corruption of other people into himself. And it's like, oh yeah, you did 10% of his health, which was 40, and you brought him down, or sorry, a quarter of his health, and you brought him down to 30. You did a quarter of his health. And then a bunch of visages get sucked into him. He's now at 75 out of 100. And then you hack away at him more, and he just keeps ripping visages. And like, so like he starts off weak and just like a fighter, like he slashes at you.
Yeah.
What's he do? He slashes. He only has one attack. Oh, this guy's easy. And then like as he sucks more visages in, you are hacking away at his health, but as he sucks more visages in, he starts gaining abilities and like,
yeah, sure.
Like the further the battle goes, because this would be like the big bad fight, the further the battle goes, like all of a sudden he starts getting legendary actions and shit. Like it's like, oh fuck, what are we in for?
Yeah. That'd be fun.
I like that. I think that helped me solidify a bit of what he is as well. And I love the idea of her being a corrupted devil.
Mm-hmm.
That's such a great multiple pathways of how you can handle that. Kill her, remove the devil, remove the demon, give the demon to him. Just so many things you could do to play with that.
Yeah.
Yep, sounds pretty epic.
Sounds like it'd be good.
I also just love the idea that I had initially where I was like, okay, my player wants me to write a more epic campaign. What if I just destroy one of my worlds? Because like the original campaign is much more like in the streets and like almost it's much more like the G&G formula, which I love. Because so is Wilderdam, where it's like a hierarchy. It's like the like Nexus whatever system of like a hierarchy, and you hack your way through the hierarchy type thing. But it's all like, it's more like a thieves guild.
Mm-hmm.
So like you can imagine just the degree. It's a druids thieves guild, which is interesting. But you could just imagine like the degree of that, of like, yeah, you're sleeping at inns, you're going to taverns, you're finding out where they're running drugs and things like that. It's like that level of campaign. And that's why I was like, are you sure that's what you want to play? And then we got down to it, and he wants something a little more epic. And I was like, oh, okay. What if we just take that simple world and burn it down to the ground?
That's funny.
Just turn the stakes up from like 2 to 10.
Yeah. Just absolutely turn the stakes up way, 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 way high. And the only recurring character is the queen because she is an elf. Half elf.
Mm.
And she's like a new queen. Not that anybody's ever played with her, but I like the idea of having to play her at different eras where she's like a new queen and quite young.
Yeah.
In the first campaign setting. And then in the second campaign setting, she's like old and experienced and mature, and
Mm-hmm.
her nation is dying
Yeah.
in fire and shadow. Also, that was the first message I sent to the player, was like, hey, I want to destroy my world. Also, we're making that world a series. So the first one is Against the Feral Crown. That's the Feral Crown is the Druid Thieves Guild, which is a spoiler if anybody ever wants to play that.
Sure.
You don't know that they're druids from the outset. And then the second one is, so it's Against the Feral Crown, and the second one is Against Shadow and Flame.
Mm.
So I'm just gonna, against is like the thematic theme of how we just progress through the history of this world.
Okay, Game of Thrones.
I love it. Yeah, I'm excited to do a big bad. I'm excited to do that classic big bad style arc, because I generally don't. I like Gray's style of like, here's a world, playing it,
Mm-hmm.
and if I have to, here's a soft hook, do something in it. The hook for my most successful campaign is just like, hey, you guys set off with a party of 30 over a wasteland. By the time you get there, you are whittled down to a player party. All of the masters and higher ranking people died on the journey. You left with that group with the idea of expanding your guild in this realm. You have no money. Figure it out. It's just such a loose hook.
Yeah.
Explore this world, make a guild. That's your job.
That's funny.
I like loosey goosey freeform camp. My Tuesday campaign that I play with that couple, which by the way, I think I'm gonna list a lot more. It is just such a great dynamic playing with a couple.
Mm-hmm.
It's so beautiful, the dynamic. Anyways, there's no hook at all.
Yeah.
Literally, the hook is you are on a boat to a new world. Have fun. I think the hook was like, you're criminals, but like just you two.
Yeah.
You know, do stuff.
They're the villains.
Yeah. Oh, they play into it too. It's nice. They are both of them changelings, and the idea is that they're criminals, and there's no other hook. It's nice seeing people get to play into that side without it disrupting a table. You're just taking that. Everybody wants to do an evil run or a murder hobo run or whatever, but oftentimes what you get is like, well, the party has goals though, and that gets in the way of goals pretty frequently. And what I experience in this game that I run on Tuesdays is, they're the only party members. It doesn't get away in the way of anything at all, and it's just fascinating to have a space where they get to do that.
Yeah.
And I can't imagine there being a big bad. It's going to be like Lord's Fall, where if there is one, they create it.
Oh, I mean, well, like I was saying, Lord's Fall had big bads in the world.
But the big bads that we had, we created.
Yeah.
Problem is that they weren't really that big or that bad.
Yeah.
And to be honest, they kind of just ran away. And the whole campaign was us chasing them down. But they were just NPC noblemen.
They were running from the big bads.
Yes. They were.
Oh, shit. Plot twist, we're the big bad.
Yes.
We always have been.
Yeah. Yes.
That was a fun campain.
It was fun.
We nearly finished it.
Nearly.
Well, actually, we technically did because we were in the prologue. Or, sorry, the epilogue.
Well, you had gotten the epilogue of the story that you guys created.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
But what became the story after a year, we did finish, and then we just had some epilogue loose ends that we wanted to clean up, and that's where it fizzled out. But that's a pretty actually acceptable place to fizzle out.
As far as I care, Vun is underwater.
Yeah.
Maybe there's a giant dead whale.
That's
that
so close
somehow
to the
made it
name.
into the portal.
It was something like that. It wasn't Vun, but it was like Run, Vun. It was something along those lines. It definitely rhymes with that.
The city that I don't remember the name of the city where the Beige was. I don't remember that one.
It definitely had a ring.
Ava,
like
I think,
Vun.
was the 3-tiered city.
Yeah.
I don't know what.
Fuck, now I want to know what the name was.
I'm
It's
pretty
so
sure
close.
it was Vun.
It could have been.
VUN.
Could have been. I don't know.
There's a map
It's been a
somewhere.
long
Oh,
time.
I don't have your wish, by the way.
Hmm?
For you know what? If there's nothing else, this feels like post-show talk. Does anybody else have anything we want to talk about villains? I was about to dig straight into this, and I realized it's so off topic.
If you want to go off topic, let's end the show.
All right. Well, that was our piece on villains overall. Being, I think we all enjoy, rather than having big bads, having powerful entities in the world or lore of big bads, but not necessarily a big bad that ends a campaign.
But big bads are still fun.
We are interested in exploring such things, and they are definitely fun.
Yeah.
Thank you, everybody, for listening to Take the Damage podcast by Unfortunate Ones. I'm Sav. You can find my links in the description. You can find me over at startplaying.games if you ever want to play a game with me. We've kind of talked a little bit about the games that I run, but I also run requests and custom games. I like writing new shit, writing worlds, and writing different stories. And yeah, feel free.
I'm Nix. My links will be in the description. I do not run public games on any website.
You
so
hate TTRPGs.
I only do this because I have to, and Sav is holding me at gunpoint the entire game or the entire podcast. It's a thing.
It's true.
Yeah.
It's an airsoft gun.
Yeah, I didn't say it was. Yeah, I didn't describe the kind.
Airsoft guns hurt, though, and you're not wearing eye protection.
Yeah, I also don't have pants on.
Ever. Anyways, Gray, what you got going on?
I'm Graythorn. Links in the description, I'm sure. I'm currently in the middle of my intermission campaign. My players have done the first era, moving on to the second era. And once you're done with that, you get to play the weakest characters against the strongest bad guy, the villain.
Shit,
Nice.
And hopefully their acts in era 1 and 2 will give them the ability to beat the guy who's going to be like level 25.
I hope that doesn't happen.
And-
I hope they go in weak.
And what happens in the final era against the level 25 guy will affect my current timeline. So
Oh,
that'll
nice.
be fun.
Sick.
Yeah.
Cool.
World building. I love it. Oh, I've already told Nix, but I'm pretty sure I'm going to try and create a through line between all of my worlds.
Yeah.
But
yeah, like and subscribe.
Yeah, like, subscribe, do stuff with bells. If
get enough subscribers, links won't be broken and all that, you know.
Also, feel free to become a member on Patreon or our website, where we do release extra content, being our pre and post show, where we kind of just bullshit. Sometimes about TTRPGs, sometimes not about TTRPGs. But if you want more content, there is more content on our website and Patreon. And the more subscribers we get, eventually that'll hit YouTube members as well. Thank you for listening.
Thank you, guys.
Great.
Nothing? All right.
Yeah, I guess you guys haven't earned it yet. Bye-bye.
It's never going to happen.